The sun vanished. A wall of iron and bronze stretched across the valley floor, 3,000 spears leveled at a single point. Samson stood in the center of the dust, his breathing rhythmic and deep. The desert wind whipped his hair, pulling it across his face, but he did not blink. He looked at the horizon of shields, then dropped his gaze to the cracked, dry earth. His fingers brushed against the grit, searching until they locked around the jawbone of a donkey. He lifted it. The bone was heavy, stained with deep dust, and it settled into his grip like a natural extension of his own frame. Across the field, the Philistine line remained perfectly still, a silent, metallic machine waiting for a signal. Samson tightened his hold on the bone, his knuckles turning white, and waited for the first movement from the wall of steel. A single, jagged scream tore through the silence. The Philistine captain leveled his spear, his voice cracking the air. Behind him, the wall of iron shifted. 3,000 boots struck the earth in unison, a rhythmic thud that vibrated through the valley floor. The first wave surged forward, a tide of motion that kicked up thick, choking clouds of sand. The air turned opaque, a swirling veil of grit that obscured the sun and swallowed the horizon. Samson did not retreat. He stood his ground as the dust roared toward him like a collapsing mountain. He felt the ground shudder under his weight. He dropped his center of gravity, his back muscles corded like iron cables, and his shoulders braced for the impact. He took a breath, the air tasting of dry earth and impending metal. Then he lunged. He moved forward, not away, driving his feet into the shifting sand to gain momentum. The distance between him and the charging line vanished in a heartbeat. The roar of the charge grew deafening as the two forces rushed toward the inevitable collision. The first blow landed with a sickening crack. It struck the captain across the chest, sending him spinning backward into the dirt. Samson did not pause. He moved with a rhythmic, terrifying precision, his arm swinging the jawbone in a wide, lethal arc. Every strike connected. The heavy bone shattered wood and bone alike, clearing a circle of space around him. He stepped over a pile of discarded weapons, his feet planting firmly in the shifting sand. He was a whirlwind of raw, kinetic energy, his movements fluid and unstoppable. The soldiers behind the first line hesitated, their eyes wide with disbelief as they watched their comrades fall like wheat before a scythe. They stumbled over one another, trying to retreat, but the pressure of the ranks behind them kept them pinned. Samson pressed the advantage. He drove his shoulder into the next wave, his muscles straining as he swung the bone again. The air grew thick with the smell of sweat and iron. He stood in the center of the fray, a single, immovable object, while the wave of steel shattered against him, leaving the valley floor littered with the remnants of the broken charge. The air in the valley grew heavy, vibrating with a low hum that drowned out the clash of steel. Samson swung the jawbone once more, but the strike went wide, his eyes drawn upward. The sky above the battlefield did not merely darken, it tore open. A jagged, violent rift split the storm clouds, revealing a blinding, golden radiance that poured down like liquid fire. It struck the ground directly at Samson's feet, the impact sending a shockwave of heat that forced the nearest soldiers to recoil. The light was absolute. It stripped away the shadows, illuminating the carnage, and the raw terror etched into the faces of the remaining Philistine force. The soldiers froze, their weapons suddenly feeling like lead in their hands. They dropped their spears and shields, the clatter of metal against stone. Their hands trembled violently as they scrambled backward, tripping over their own feet in a desperate, frantic retreat. The golden radiance lingered, casting long, sharp shadows across the valley floor. Samson stood tall, the jawbone hanging loosely at his side, his chest heaving with the rhythm of a spent storm. He looked up into the fading divine glow, his face steady and unmoving. The wind died down as if the earth itself were holding its breath. The battlefield fell into a deafening, heavy silence. Where there had been thousands, there was now only the scattered debris of a broken army. Broken shields, discarded spears, and the dust of 1,000 footsteps settled into the sand. Samson did not move. He stood as a monument in the center of the carnage, his presence filling the void left by the retreating soldiers. The impossible had been achieved. The valley, once a place of impending death, was now a testament to his singular strength. He remained there, a solitary figure against the vast, quiet horizon, watching the last of the light dissolve into the evening sky. The threat was gone. The silence was absolute.